A real estate appraiser. I have been so since 1990. If anybody wants to do the math, I was only 4 when I started. So yeah, I've been at this quite a while. So, thank you to Marina and ECAR and everyone else that invited me here today. I think the better you can be prepared for these changes, the easier your transactions are going to go. There are some big changes, so might as well get into it. So you wouldn't think an appraisal form would have an impact on agents. And it's not the form, of course, itself that's going to have the impact. It's the information we now have to provide. That's going to make the big difference. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac started building this form in 2018. So they've been at it a long time. No agent, broker, or appraiser in this room was consulted in any point along the way. That I feel comfortable saying. Unfortunately, they did not ask for appraisers' input when they developed the form. So if you're, frustrated, etc., know the feeling well. Some of the things that they are asking us to do now is to measure the elevation from the street to the front door. I don't know. The only way I know how to get that is on my car. And I figured at some point in time, I'm just going to drive the car up right to the front door and just do it that way. They're going to call the cops. Some lady in a black car just drove through the front door. She said she wanted the elevation. I don't know. I guess you can get it on your phone. I don't know. But, the point is this is the kind of information that Fannie and Freddie are now trying to get from the appraiser. I know. She's like, I don't get it. I know. The last time I did this was in Norwalk, and I had a guy sitting over here, and the whole time I kept saying, I'm sorry. I just wanted to give him a hug. He was just so upset. So elevation of the front door, whether the address can get fiber or not, that is a big one. It's also a field that they expect us to adjust for. Whether a property, your subject may not have access to fiber, whereas your comp may, that becomes a field for us to adjust for and to explain, right? I mean, if there's a disparity in the adjusted values, the first thing the lender's gonna say is it because one has access to fiber and the other one does not? We're all gonna learn this together, folks. The mandatory form starts November 2nd. Appraisers are already getting orders for these forms. So this is already in effect. The problem is that most software companies are not ready. So appraisers have been submitting reports. The software companies are not ready to accept the reports. So will that delay your closing? Yes, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So yes, we're all finding out about this together, and it's gonna be a really interesting way to learn. 3 jobs, only one of them is mine. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac wrote the form, set the rules, 8 years in the making. Nobody in this room got the votes. The appraiser, I report on what I see and what I can analyze and what the data points to. The lender decides what has to happen before the loan closes. Permits, inspections, repairs, reinspection, that's on the lender. Understand, the appraiser is like way down here. The lender's at the top of this whole, totem pole, I guess, for lack of a better word. The value itself is set by the market. I have a free Facebook group. I'll be happy to share that with you. But one of the biggest questions I get is, Tammy, do appraisers give value too? And I always say no, because the appraiser isn't the one giving the value. The market is telling us whether there's value. Think back to pre-COVID and in-ground pools, right? At the beginning, before COVID, nobody really wanted an in-ground pool. It was, too expensive. They had kids, whatever the case may be. But once COVID hit, boom, in-ground pools have become valuable, whereas they weren't before. So the market is telling the appraiser what is important and what is not. The appraiser is not doing this. If you have questions along the way, please feel free to shout them out. So they have changed it so that now we have one form for everything. So single family condo, 2 to 4 family, manufactured homes, all go on one form now, which should be really interesting for us all. Software reads it before the person does. Now I can tell you that as far as the review goes, I am already uploading my appraisal to the portal, the lender's portal, and it's being read immediately. And it will shoot it back to me if it says there's no commentary here, the lender's name doesn't match the order, the borrower, whatever the case may be, So understand AI is already in play. It's just going to be a much bigger play going forward. Consistency is the whole point. The same property should come back described the same way no matter who appraises it or what town it sits in. This is the goal, and I believe this is part of what Fannie's grand scheme is to start to standardize a lot of this data. They initially came up with things like C codes and Q codes. Like C codes are condition codes, and there's a list of C1 through C6, and the appraiser has got to assign a code to the subject and all the comparables. I think part of Fannie's goal was to try and make it more consistent throughout the entire process. None of this was aimed at agents, but a report built to be compared automatically leaves less room for anything that cannot be supported. This is where it's going to start to impact you. We're going to see that very shortly. One report asking for far more than the old one did. Broadband, as we discussed, elevation at the front door, room by room condition. The appraiser now has to go, and we always did, go through every room. However, the requirement for the photographs is exponentially bigger than it ever was. And that includes any kind of deficiency. And I'm thinking things like stains on the ceiling from a previous leak. Maybe there was a bad roof at some point. So the appraiser is going to say to you, I see water stains on the ceiling. What happened? Was that repaired or what? And the answer I'm inevitably given is, I don't know. But you can't say I don't know anymore. Because if you don't know, I've got to put something in the form. So now you need to know. The form, I created a handout for you all, hoping to direct things and make things a little easier on you. But anything that you cannot answer, I have to. I would rather it came from you because you're the authority when it comes to that property, not me, right? So we're going to talk about even things like the roof and that kind of thing. Updates and defects, the year the work was done and the cost to cure what wasn't done. We're going to have to mark that in our reports. So if we determine that there is a deficiency, broken handrails, whatever the case may be, the appraiser is going to have to estimate the cost to cure that. Now, if you've already done your due diligence and you've walked around the property and go, oh, handrails, boy, they're shot. Get a quote from a contractor so that we know what to deduct or what to say subject to repairs is. So at least we have something concrete to go on rather than, it's going to be $5,000 to fix. No, it's not. It's going to be $250. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. The more detail you can hand the appraiser going forward, the better off everyone is going to be. And again, the appraiser has to go through every single room. I mean, I'm talking open the cabinet doors, make sure nothing is leaking. If it's leaking, take a picture, everything. And it's all tied into the form as we go. Like the sketch gets tied into the pictures, gets tied into the form, gets tied into the, so it's one right after another. ADUs, or accessory units, accessory dwelling units, commonly called in-law apartments, which we can't really say anymore, whether they're permitted or not. I walk into a lot of houses and I'll see a basement, like living area, full kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and I see no exits. So I know there's no way this could be permitted. Now the question is going to be, is it permitted? And if so, when was the permit taken out? Where was it approved? Who approved it? All of these things. Better you should know in advance than wait for the appraiser to catch it and delay your closing. Honestly, I can't impress that enough. Closings are going to be delayed as it is for this new form. I mean, I don't think we've had a new appraisal form since 2007, maybe, that was it. I think the average age of an appraiser, not to be ageist, but it's true, is 60-ish, 50, 60. We look at people who have been in this business for 25 years as newbies. So, that's what, most of us have been doing this a very, very long time. So switching to an entirely new form with completely different guidelines, and they're all drop down. So once I select this, 3 more sections drop down that I've got to figure out the answers to. And once I answer that, then 2 more can drop down where it needs additional information. They've taken our ability to write these things in the addendum and kind of thrown that out the door in favor of being able to see what they want to see when they want to see it. So understand this is where this is going to go. But as far as ADUs go, I mean, I can't say how many times I've walked into a house and I've said, is this a permitted ADU? And they go, I don't know, the agent said it was when I bought the house. That is inevitably the answer. They remember that you are telling them that this is a legal area, when it may not be. How many times do you see an MLS basement, perfect for multi-generation living or whatever the case may be? Do you know this though? Because if you don't, this is going to be a problem. A lot of times ADUs are only approved for the current owner. The usage of that does not run with the property. It's not like a covenant. Sometimes each individual, the new buyer has to start the permit process all over again. These are the kind of things the appraiser is going to need to know. And better, you should know in advance. Now, what's going to happen when they find this out? I don't know. I don't have any answers. I've not done the new form yet. And lenders are still kind of like wrapping their heads around the whole new deal as well. They're not the bad guys. They're just part of this whole, figuring out how we go forward. So the ADU, believe me, this is going to need far more research. A lot of them have limitations as to age. Inhabitants can only be related. Some you can rent out, some you can't rent out. If you're saying an MLS, additional income from renting in-law, you don't know that. In many, many cases, this has not been researched. So now the appraiser is going to research it, and now the appraiser is going to put that in the form. So, just something for you to be aware of. Solar energy and site access. Lots of times I'm interviewing an agent and I'll say, so I see solar panels, are they leased or are they owned? I don't know. Who do I ask? I have to have an answer, right? I mean, I've got to put it in the form at the very least. So these are things that you're going to have to know now. What I also suggest you do is, I think it's PCV value or PV value maybe. If you plug in all of the details to the solar array, the size, the capability, and all the things that it asks for, it will spit out a value for you. So maybe it's not going to help you in the appraisal, maybe it's not going to help you in the value, because I think most of us agree that when it comes to the sales comparison approach, what are you seeing? Are you seeing like people want solar power on their house? Are you seeing people pay more for it? No. Are you seeing them even want it? No. Yeah, I mean, I don't work down here. I work up, more closer to Hartford, but I see the same thing in all the classes that I give. That's pretty much the answer. But, there is a way to find out the value. Solar install date, we need that too. Who checks deeds? Anybody check deeds? Good, some? Okay, great. So this is going to be an issue as well. What happens when you have a rear lot? Maybe it's flag shape. Maybe they've got to pass and repass over another property to get to their property. Do you know this? If not, we need to now, because the appraiser is going to be looking at it, and the lender, rightfully so, is going to want an answer. Do we have a legal way to get to this collateral? So if you're not checking deeds now, and you're not checking plat maps, and you're not seeing if there's an easement over the property, I really advise that you start doing that, because it's going to be an issue going forward. So yeah, so each drop down has something that the appraiser has to fill in, and once we fill in this, several more keep dropping down. The point is, they want more detail, more detail, more detail, more detail. That's what we need to give them. The appraiser is going to be calling the listing agent. How many of you meet the appraiser? Oh, I love that. Most of you, good. I cannot stress strongly enough, I've been saying it for 40 years, meet the appraiser at the property. And usually some agent will say, well, they don't want us there. I don't care. This is your job, you're representing your client. The appraiser is going to either have to live with it or they don't. Meet them. You are the resource. You are the person that we can ask questions. You are the people that say, hey, and I've had this happen, hey, you're going to see a sale on the street. It's going to look great. It's going to look a little low. And here is why it was low. And I'll say, oh my gosh, thank you. That's data I can rely on. And I note it down. Don't use 42 Foxwood Road because the agent said they found mold at the inspection. They did this, they found that, whatever the case may be. Meet the appraiser and share that information with them. I know a lot of appraisers don't want it. Let me state that like right off the bat. But the reason they don't want, well, there's several. One is that a lot of the times the comps we're given are not comps, not by our guidelines. How do I say? It's been drilled into the appraiser's head not to let anybody sway their opinion of value. And a lot of appraisers feel that by you handing over your comps that is what that is doing. I think that's utterly ridiculous, but you know, I'm not signing their report, I'm only signing mine. So if that's what they feel, great. I completely disagree with it. I think whatever you can give me is useful, but here's what I would say. You know, we're gonna talk about that too. Learn the appraiser's guideline. Learn what Fannie Mae says a comparable sale is. Like I'm handed, you know, comps based on price per square foot often. That's not a thing. That's like that an IKEA and a BMW, and they weigh the same, I'm gonna pay the same amount of money. That's exactly what price per square foot is, right? It's looking at the entire picture, whereas the appraiser is isolating each value, each amenity, each, you know, improvement, or each, you know, bit of deferred maintenance. So, yeah. So we're gonna be calling you, you know, what happens, install years, permit status, what was updated and when, public records, if they're incomplete, MLS was never built to carry it. It's my understanding they are thinking about redesigning MLS as well to more closely match this. I don't have that on any authority other than I've read it a couple places. And the seller and the listing agent, you are our source of information. You are the ones with all the answers. You've got the keys to the kingdom. What the questions sound like, again, update years, what was done when was the roof done, HVAC, water heater, electrical ages, permit and certificate of occupancy status, materials and finish room by room. So if you say to me, yeah, they updated the kitchen, I'll go, great. When was that? I think it was, they said 10 years ago. There's no part in my form that says I think it said 10 years ago. See, they're boxing us into answers. So we've got to give them the right answers. We can't just go, I don't know, it's 15 years ago. We maybe could have done that in the old forms, but not now. So yeah, you're gonna get calls, believe me. And a lot of it is, you have to remember, you know, maybe you don't want to answer the phone, maybe you don't want to give information about the house you sold 6 months ago, whatever the case may be, but the next time somebody calls you, that appraiser could be working on one of your deals, right? So, what cannot be confirmed? When you make us guess, here's what happens. What cannot be confirmed? The age of the roof, estimated from what is visible. Look, I'm not a roofer. I never wanted to be in the position where I was estimating the age of a roof. I'm good appraiser, roofer, not so much. But when you don't tell me or you don't know, I have to estimate. A shorter remaining life of record, if it reads near the end, the lender's going to ask for a roof cert. More money, more delays. You know, if the homeowner doesn't know when they did the roof, go to the building department. You know, agents are you know, like, well, if they don't know, they don't know. Well, that's not the answer, though. That's not the answer. And if the building department doesn't have it, I get it. Look, you can't, you know, you can only do what you can do. But at least, you know, give it a shot and try and find the information out. Upgrade nobody can date, recorded as older than it may be. I mean, again, I'm not an interior designer. I don't know. We've all walked into houses with green shag carpeting, right? You know, we're all like, 60s, right? You know, right away. But, you know, some of the other updates, it's impossible. In my Facebook group, somebody said, I said, you know, share the updates with the appraiser. And they're like, shouldn't the appraiser just know when they walk in? No. How? I don't know. I don't know how I can possibly know that. Stating slow drain, a system that will not run, the condition exactly as observed with the photograph attached. The lender may require condition of the loan on repair or further investigation. The lender, not the appraiser, the lender. They're the ones with the, you know, they're at the high end. They get to make the decisions. There have been a lot of times where agents have gotten mad at me because I have had to go back to a property to make sure something was repaired. And they go, I don't even know why you called for that. Wasn't me. I didn't call for it. It was the lender. Like, they have the ability to call, to either say, yes, this should be repaired, or no, the appraiser's, you know, not right. We don't need that repaired. We're good with the condition the way it is. So it's up to the lender. Work carried out with no permit. Who checks permits? Good. Okay, good. Because appraisers sometimes do and sometimes don't. There are a lot of appraisers that feel they're not the permit police and that they shouldn't have to check for those things. Personally, I think it's going to be mandatory going forward. And I don't know if some of you are aware, but there are many, many towns that if you do like electrical work with no permit, they can make you open a wall. Absolutely make you open a wall and check to make sure it was done to code. So kitchen renos, that kind of thing, most of them, it's not a requirement. But you start doing plumbing, electric, I know I go into a lot of houses and the homeowner is so excited because, yeah, it's, we made it all open concept and we took out the wall and I'm thinking, oh my God, stop talking. Please just stop talking because did you get permits? No, my buddy and I did it at night on the weekends and don't tell me anymore. I have to list that in the report. Work done with no permits. Wouldn't you rather know beforehand instead of like coming to a screeching halt when you're like, oh my God, closing is so close and yet so far away? Because now you're gonna have to get the building department out there. You're gonna have to, all of these things. So my suggestion is you find out in advance. The appraiser reports, the lender's sides, and somebody ends up chasing the answer days later under the closing date for a permit that took 5 minutes to pull. So I know a lot of the times the theory is, no, we're going to wait and see if the appraiser catches it. Now I kind of think the appraiser will. Estate sales and when nobody has an answer. Most common question I've asked, executor, relo, seller, who they simply don't know. I mean, it's, but start with what's on record. The deed carries access and easements worth pulling on any, especially rear lot or shared driveway. Building department holds permits and certificates of occupancy. Much of it both sits on both sides now. So a lot of assessor's cards, I don't know what you have here. I know some of the ones in Harford County have a list of permits already on the card. Makes it easy, right? So we can at least go with that. And if not, a lot of permitting is now online. Go right to the town. Boom, 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 done. If it's not there, it's not there. Any improvement nobody can document is not fatal on its own. What matters is that it's known before the appraiser arrives rather than surfacing in the middle of underwriting. The lender decides what happens next. The appraiser has no choice but to report what the record shows. What gets required because of it, a permit, an inspection, or repair, it's the lender's call, not the appraiser's. An estate, a relo, a seller who generally does not remember, none of it is unusual, none of it's a dead end, but we're gonna have to do something about it now, whereas before we would just go, I don't know, listing agent didn't know, homeowner didn't know, don't know. Now that's not gonna be the answer because they're not gonna accept that. Nobody has measured it yet. What exists so far is what appraisers expect. 63% of appraisers expect longer turn times. Again, we don't know what we're doing. We have no idea. I mean, there have been appraisers that have been studying this stuff for months and months and months. I don't think we're really gonna know until we actually get into it. We don't know what the software is gonna hold up. Build in longer closing times. I am telling you now because I have a feeling this is gonna be delayed right from the get-go. 30% said, I think it was like 900 appraisers they surveyed back in March. Only 30% of them said we were ready to go. The thing is, like I said, software companies, they're not ready. How are we going to be ready when they keep changing things? I don't know. But 2 extra days plus repair condition reinspection, not a 2-day problem. September and October are the tightest stretch because that's when it moves into mandatory. November is when they have to start using the new forms. Let's talk a little bit about market area. I know that a lot of agents pull their comps based on subject, draw a circle, and that's what they're using as their market area. But that's not true. That's not a real market area. That's simply a distance. What you need to do is start looking at your market areas. What determines your market area? Is it major roads? Is it a highway? Is it a mountain? Is it, school districts? Is it one area has public water and sewer, the other doesn't? These are the things that you have to start looking at because we're going to start pulling comps from these areas and you're going to see what's going to happen with the comps. So the area your buyer is actually shopping in, the homes they would have bought instead of yours. So that's principal substitution, right? They're not gonna pay more for one house than they are for the exact same house. That's how you tell if a market is similar, for one thing. That's a great basis right there. Take a look and see what their historical sales are. What actually marks a highway, river, rail line that a lot of buyers won't cross, public water and sewer on one side, well and septic on the other, change in zoning or land use, maybe it's turning commercial, a clear break in age, we'll show that on the next slide, I think it is. Distance alone proves nothing. A sale a third of a mile away across a boundary can be less comparable than one further in distance. You determine, you know your market areas, right? You know what people are looking at, you know they'll go here or they'll go here, but they may not want to go here. That doesn't make the closest in proximity the most appropriate, but the market area does, and that's what we will start documenting very, very soon. Price off sales the appraiser can't use, we're gonna see what's gonna happen there. And I think you already know where your market areas are, right? I mean, it's, you know, if you have a Cape built in 1952 and you have a Cape built in 2025, and you know, one is around all new houses and one is around all houses that are similar, are those similar market areas? Right, she's right. No, they're not similar market areas because you wouldn't get a buyer looking at both of those places for the same type of house. A sale from outside the area isn't automatically out, but it gets identified as outside, explained, and adjusted. The boundary can't be stretched to reach it. So, what actually separates one market from another? Area A, where your listing is. It's made up of ranches and capes, 1,700 to 2,000 square feet, built between 55 and 75 on a quarter to a half acre with public water and sewer. There's 10 closed sales in the past 12 months, 396 to 431, but your subject is under contract for 429. Area B, much newer houses, bigger houses, colonials, 3 recent closed sales, 478, 495, and 512. Now think about this logically. If you've got a house under contract for 429, are you gonna be looking at comps around 500,000? Does that make sense, at market area wise? No, because if it was worth 500,000, they would have paid 500,000. It's not the same market area. That's cherry picking. You can't go here because it's, you know, higher sale prices than it is here. Can't do that. I'll show you what that looks like in a little minute. So yeah, it's a totally different market. Better access is real, it can be measured. When it's not the reason to price a ranch against a colonial, there really are no good reasons. We can't ignore the good comps in favor of the more expensive comps. And this is where it's starting to affect your prices. A single town can hold more than one market. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Right? A lot of the markets you guys work in, you know, there's a market here, there's a market here, there's a, you know, and on it goes. For whatever reason, it's different markets. I see this time and time again. The blue circle is where my subject is, and it's where all those comps are. I'm handed comps in the red circle. Can I go there? Can I ignore the ones in the blue circle? Anybody? You guys breathing? Come on. No, definitely cannot. No, I cannot ignore those. I couldn't ignore them before. I can't ignore them even bigger now. You're gonna see why. But this is the part that's really gonna start to impact you. What it doesn't show to separate them, distance on its own, 1 mile radius centered anywhere, and either cluster reaches into another area. So, you know, I drew a circle only because it was easiest, but look, even here, you know, we're climbing over the highway into the comps, you know, up, the lender is gonna go, nope, definitely not, none of this is gonna fly, right? I have no reason to take comps in the higher priced area. That's gonna be even more evident now. Okay, so, this is called paired sales analysis, and this is going to be how you can determine the value of things that you may need to adjust for. I'm not going to go into a whole big detail on this. I teach a class on it because agents always ask me how to make adjustments, so this is one way to do it. So 14 Depot Street, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you can see that they're almost the same as far as update, size, all of that. One sold for $437, one sold for $428. The only difference in those two was one had a 2-car garage and one had no garage. So, assuming everything else is equal, when I deduct the two sale prices, what it tells me is the garage is worth $8,500. Not paying attention to potential adjustments is where you start to get into trouble as far as the lender goes. So understand that you have to have some sort of concept of why things are adjusted, how they're adjusted, and that they're going to be adjusted, right? If you hand the appraiser comps that are all 500 square feet larger than your subject, but they all meet your sale price, no, I'm going to adjust for the difference in the living area between the two. So, paired sales analysis works on everything from bathrooms to you name it, central air, that kind of thing. It's a great tool to have just to get a vague idea of what you're thinking about adjustment wise. This is what's going to really impact you. They want us to now provide our farm list, which means if I do a search of MLS and my subject is, I don't know, I don't have that there. My subject is Cape, built in 55, around 1,400 square feet. I'm searching for comps between 1,100 and 1,900 square feet, same age, et cetera, et cetera. In the market area, I now have to list every single one of those that met my criteria, but I didn't use. This is what's going to really, really impact you all. Because if I don't have a reason not to use it, I have to use it. Could be a closer sale, could be more recent, whatever the case may be. But if you're pricing it on something, a sale from 8 months ago, and more houses sold, but they sold slightly lower, no choice but to use them. Now, I can explain why I did or did not use them. So, and I guess I have to now. At 12 Maple Street, closer to the size and condition, most recent, I used it. All of these sales I used, comparable size, everything there was close. All of these are not, but I have to tell them why I'm not using that comp. Inferior condition, not an arm's length transaction, right? Maybe it was low because it was an estate sale. Not updated like the other ones were. Buyers don't want that street. That's a slippery slope. We're going to talk about that. We can't really, the appraiser for sure can't say anything like that. It's an older sale, closed 5 months ago, and I've got more recent sales, or the seller was motivated. So again, you see why the appraiser calling you becomes more and more and more and more important. I could be working on your deal. If I don't know why something sold low, I'm going to use the sale. I don't have any choice. So, the more information you can give, the more information you can put in MLS, the better off we are. Here's more. Interior condition, inferior, sold for 402. Willow Way, it was an REO, not using it. However, these four could have a reason to use them or could not have a reason to use them. And if they have a reason to use them, I have no choice but to use them. So you understand what that can do to your estimated value? Can you see how important this becomes? Mm-hmm. Because I have a feeling that this in and of itself is going to torpedo a lot of values. Because if we don't have a reason not to use that sale, we have to use the sale. So, 4 sales left out in the number $14,000. 4 sales that could have been used were left out. If we put them back, because we have no choice now, house was under contract for $429, but the value only supports $415, because I had to use all those comps. Now, if I don't have a reason to use them, great. They might have been older, they might have been in inferior condition. We talked about all of that. Awesome. Again, meet the appraiser and tell them this. You're going to save a lot of deals this way, I promise you.
Now, what happens if an appraiser comes up with 10 properties that could work? How do we pick?
I mean, that's certainly possible. Yeah. We all put our license on a different report. So, yeah. But I mean, I think that kind of proves the point of like doing your own research, mm-hmm. you know?
Yeah.
And look, if you've got ideas that, hey, you know, this area is looking low because of this, and this, they're planning a commercial facility next door, they're putting in a dump next door, whatever the case may be, share that with the appraiser. So, $14,000 gap between the contract price and the values, because I had to add the other comps in. I have no choice here.
Would the appraiser get the comps to us before the appraisal so we can see what he's using?
We can't do that.
We can't.
No,
so
no, no.
we're there and you show us 10, we might not be familiar with all of them.
Well, sometimes appraisers don't pull comps before they get to a property. A lot of us do because we see your interiors, right? We go by your, they may do that, but they'll never, I won't say never, they will often not share them. Because it's kind of work product confidentiality. It kind of gets into the ethics side of things. Could you make an argument for sharing it? Yes. Could you make an argument for not sharing it? Yeah, also yes. But, again, I think it would behoove you to make a list. I think that would be a great idea. Make a list of what you think would be appropriate. Maybe share that with the appraiser. I've always said, share your CMAs. It's information we can use. We may not be able to use it for the report. It may not go with appraiser's guidelines, but it's still additional information that we didn't have before. Okay, what it means in practice. Okay, what now has to be reported? Updates, what and what year, where the answer lives, seller confirmed against building department, building permit. So you're gonna check, if the seller doesn't know, you're gonna go to the building department. Roof, HVAC, water heater, electrical ages, same thing. Building department, sometimes the assessor's department, they've got it right online. Defects and proof of repair. I've had agents meet me with receipts for repairs. I'm like, good on you. That's a fabulous idea because that's data I can report, right? I can say, yep, there's a water stain on the ceiling. Agent has a receipt from the roof being repaired 3 weeks ago. They just haven't had a chance to repaint. We all win, right? Less hassle for everybody. ADU permitted with certificate of occupancy, building department, maybe zoning department, that might be appropriate also. Zoning department may have a good answer for you whether you can use this as a accessory unit or not. Again, town zoning regulations, ADU with occupancy allows. Energy features, solar owned or leased. Install documents, solar agreement, value derived at, PV value, that's what it is. I was close, I think it said PC, but pvvalue.com, that's where you can put in some of your details on your solar arrays, and you can kick back a value. Might help you with your listing and stuff, maybe not help you with your appraisal, but it might help you listing wise. That you can prove value. Disaster mitigation, appraisers now have to look for storm shutters. Now, this is a national form. I get it. They're trying to cover all areas of the United States. We don't really, I can see in Florida where that would be a good question. Here, not so much. But just understand, this is also something the appraiser is going to start looking at. Fortified roofs. Metal roofs, how about those? Do you consider those fortified? We don't have that many of them. Basically. But anybody? No opinions? You haven't done that many. They're not that common anymore. Broadband availability and type. The provider has to look it up by address. I still don't know how to do this, so if you do me a favor, share this information with me. I have no clue. Road type, shared driveway easements. Pull the deed, pull the plot plan. You don't even have to go to the town half the time anymore. You can get this stuff right online. We have to measure the ceiling height in every room now. I know. I'm telling you, bring your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner, or possibly a sleeping bag. Because it's going to be a long time that we're going to be there. Almost every online, everything that you need is online. So it's not like the old days where you had to go into the building department and you asked a question and then you kind of alerted the building department. I did that once to check to see if a permit. They were using their garage as living area, and they did a nice job. It was finished nicely and heated and air conditioned and all that. And I don't know, kind of had a feeling. I went to the building department. I said, hey, they're using this as living area. Is this permitted? I thought he was going to pole vault over the counter. He's like, I sent a cease and desist order to them months ago. That's a case for looking at the permits right off the bat, right? So what do you think happened to that closing? Dead. So Yeah, like I said, everything is online. You don't have to do that anymore, right? You don't have to share the address. You can just look it up. So what the appraiser will be asking about: documents, permits, certificate of occupancy, deed, plot plan, access and easements. I'm not saying you should do the appraiser's job. I'm saying that you should do your jobs because this is gonna help you so the appraiser doesn't call it out. You've already got the answers. Detail worth knowing: each update in the year it was done. Roof, HVAC, we talked about whether the ADU is permitted. On the sales side, closed sales relied on. I've called a ton of agents and go, hey, this seems to have sold for way higher. How come? And sometimes they even answer the phone. So we're all better off for that. But, and it's hard. You are all running around all over the place. I get that. But again, the deal that I'm working on may be yours, or it may be somebody in your office, or it may be, take a few minutes and answer our silly little questions. Access: every room has to be reachable with, usually with utilities on there. I do some direct lender work that they don't care. What cannot be reached cannot be reported as observed. Documents and data are what can be used and never a number. So I can't say, is there an attic? I don't know. I can't say that. I've got to actually physically see the attic. Whether they're going to make us crawl into it or not, I sincerely hope not, because I do that for FHA as it is. But interiors of garage, even now, my lenders require I take a picture of the interior garage. Can't tell you how many times they're locked. I have to go back. Somebody's going to pay me to go back and have that open and take a picture of the garage. Every defect now carries a photograph attached to it. The picture on the left, is maybe a bit of an extreme, because if we have this kind of condition, we are in bigger trouble than we thought. But understand that those are the kinds of pictures that will now be in our reports. Detailed, up close, and personal photos attached to every room and the interior. The bucket underneath, if I see that, I'm going to say that there's a leak. Does that mean you just take the bucket out for when the appraiser is there? No. I've had agents stand in front of a broken window the whole time. It's very funny. I get it. You just want your deals done. I get it. I totally understand. So things that we're going to need to, rotted or springy deck boards, loose rails, missing handrails. Agents tell me all the time, why are appraisers calling these out? This is not an FHA, because it's still the lender's money. They want to make sure that the collateral they're lending on is safe for people to live in, and it's going to be there in 10 years. It's going to be, so that's why we call these things out. How many times have you seen a deck where the above ground pool used to be, but the pool is gone?
Yeah.
Right? We see them all the time. Appraiser has no choice but to call that out, because that's a safety hazard. It doesn't matter whether it's conventional or FHA or VA or anything else. That's a safety hazard. Leaking, staining, damaged siding, exposed wiring, no detectors. Some lenders make us check for detectors, smoke detectors, CO detectors. I don't know why. How it gets resolved: cured before the appraiser gets there, or document with an invoice. Like I said, if I see water stains on the ceiling, but you've got a receipt that you had the roof repaired 2 weeks ago, we're all golden. It becomes a non-issue. Or priced with a bid. I don't know how lenders will feel about this, but I think even if you can show that you've gotten bids on these things, I think that will probably be at least supportive of it trying to be repaired, and maybe they'll make us make the report subject to completion, so subject to that repair. But at least then we have a dollar amount that we're working with. None of the items are new. What is new is the photograph travels with them, so the reviewer, human or automated, sees the condition directly. So, like I said, the requirement for photographs has grown exponentially. 3 separate things to report to us. Is there an ADU? Is it permitted? And what does the town allow? Let's find this out in advance. In Connecticut, the accessory unit rules changed in 2021. Towns could opt out, so confirm it town by town. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get more places for people to live, right? I mean, you want to bring your older parents in and have a place for them to stay. the state is trying to make that happen a little bit easier. It's not gonna negate these requirements though. So, when you're handing comps to the appraiser, here's what we need to avoid. It's an up and coming area. I can't say that. I mean, that is just like bing, 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 bing. A lender is gonna have a heart attack. I can hear it from here. Walking distance to shops, not everybody can walk. Prestigious street, desirable location. I've had agents say, houses on the right side of the street sell for way better than houses on the left. And I'm looking at them, and there's just no reason for it. Like, it doesn't, one side doesn't abut the highway, look, if you've got that kind of data that you can show the appraiser, God bless you, that's great, but the appraiser's not gonna do that for you. I can promise you, no appraiser is gonna sit there and go, let's see if she's right. Left side sells for more than the right. Not happening. If you happen to have that data though, share it with your appraiser. If it falls under their ability to use it based on our guidelines, etc., there should be no reason that they wouldn't use that information. Hot market, it'll appraise. Pride of ownership, that's a big one. You don't quite have the restriction on the words you can use that we do. We've got pages of them. Like, you can't say proximity to church. You can't say any of those things anymore. I see some of the things that, are in MLS. I'm like, if an appraiser ever said that, they'd have their head would like blow off. I don't know. But yeah, hot market, all of those things. Days on market is what's going to show me a hot market. Pride of ownership, can't say it. Any of those things, up and coming design. Those are very subjective, opinion-based things. If it's data, great, the appraiser can use it. If it's not, we cannot. So in the last class I taught, the highest offer is supposed to be the value. Is that true? You're all thinking, I think it is. No, it's not. It's not. What happens in a multiple offer situation? What is that driven by?
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand, but what else?
Terms.
Who?
Terms, price.
Terms, price?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't multiple offers often an emotional reaction?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I've been looking for a house for 5 years. I don't care. I'm approved for, $450. The house is listed for $300,000. Let's just throw $450 at it. You've all seen it. I've seen it for sure. So the highest offer is not automatically the value. The offer is made with the lender's money on top of it. So last class I taught, they were like, well, Tammy, if they've got offers, for that amount of money, that's the value. No. They're only really shoving their hand in their pocket to take the lender's money out. Once they put their hand in their pocket, take cash out and make up the difference, that's a different deal. Completely different. That is what really would move the needle, as opposed to having to rely on just what has already sold. So, that's the thing that's going to do it, is a cash offer. Bidding reaches the number through contract, right? Every comparable went under contract before it closed. The appraiser is required to analyze what the market did between the contract date and today, and to adjust for it. Anybody think the market's going straight up? Straight down? Sideways? Yeah, I would have to agree that in many of the towns that I work in, I see a fluctuating market. I don't see like, during COVID where it was just like, choom, straight up. I see really boop, 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 up and down. I can't make a time adjustment based on that. That's the whole point. So if agents are saying, no, it's increasing, everybody's paying way more than, I can't base it on multiple offers without data behind it that says the market's increasing. Okay, so if you want to research that, I still use the old style MLS with a little stats tab up there. I pay extra so I can get the old one because I can't stand the new one. I know a lot of you feel that way. There's a little tab at the top for stats, and you can research what the market has done, in that time. And if you feel like you have a case for an increasing market and it agrees with everything Fannie Mae says we have to pay attention to, bring that with you when you meet the appraiser. Respectfully say, hey, my research is saying this, this, and this. I've had agents take a stack of MLS and throw them at me and say, take what you want, you're going to use it anyways. Yes, that is my job. But if you respectfully, talk to the appraiser, that like not as the bad guy, but as somebody who just needs data, and you have that data, share that. I think that would be a fine idea. What lags is the data, not the appraiser. With inventory this low, right? We don't have that much to go on. Today's bidding has not, the most recent evidence is the least visible, and the gap is where most of the friction actually lives. If you've got a sale from, a month ago, I can't prove the market's increased from the month to now. So I don't have any way to say, oh, yeah, it sold for more because here's all the data I have that says that market is increasing. If I don't have the data, I can't make a time adjustment. I can't show the market's increasing. I can't increase the estimated value based on that. So what I'm trying to do is explain, we are in a tight little box. We kind of always were, but with these new forms, it's going to be even more evident of what we can and what we cannot do. Oh, approved for $450 does not make the house worth $450. I mean, we kind of talked about that already. What it's approved for and what it's lent on could be two very, very separate things. The gap is cash, or in renegotiation. If the sales support $330, and that's what the lender lends against, and the other $120,000 comes out of pocket. If they want it that bad, they're going to have to give it some cash. You guys I don't know if you have hot rockers. I work like in West Hartford a lot, and everything across the board is 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 over list. It's supportable. That's the thing. I've got sales that say, yeah, I mean, I can document the market has increased there. Whereas plenty of other towns, I can't. Again, the appraiser can only work on data. The fact nobody can document is a conservative estimate. The seller may not see that value in that number. Comparable sales come from the market area your buyer is shopping in, not from the circle. Every potential comparable property it's sold in the report now is, again, written with a reason behind it. That's the part I think is going to impact you most of all. Keep learning with us. I offer a whole bunch of classes that we talked about. I have a real estate school. If you click the QR code on the left, you can sign up for my newsletter. If you click the QR code on the right, my contact info goes right to you. I am happy to continue to work as your resource. I don't expect anything from it. I don't, you want to send me some private work, yay, divorce work, I don't care, but, I am happy to be the person that answers your question.
Yeah, I had one comment and then one question. On the roof age, I found that Google Earth sometimes helps, especially when
Yes.
because you can see the colors.
Yes.
You can go back
Yes.
in time. They get really fuzzy at about 2005, but Google Earth.
Great idea.
Great. Also the old listings.
Great idea.
You know.
I've used that too.
If your estate doesn't know the answer, obviously, you
Yeah.
go back. If it sold 3 years ago, maybe that person did. But
Perfect.
My question to you is, it sounds like we as agents probably should create a appraisal Q&A sheet to address the 10 changes. Right, I'm saying, but we should have a data sheet that we hand.
Oh, do you mean to give to that?
Yes.
That's a great idea. I should create one for you.
Give to the appraiser a cover
Absolutely
sheet,
true.
especially the comp, starting
Absolutely.
right there, why would we not count them?
Yep,
Right?
yep.
Is that something that you would say?
I
The
think
market area ones?
I think it works for me.
Okay.
All the data that you can collect is good data. It's helpful, it's supportive, it's all of those things. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Absolutely great idea. And if you want, I can create a form for you for when you do your site visits, and I'm happy to do that for you if you.
It's almost like an inclusions exclusions.
Yes.
That we'd start with the
Yes.
owner,
Yes.
get ahead of it.
Exactly right. And I think getting ahead of it is the best mindset you can possibly have. Because you can see, I don't have wiggle room anymore. I used to be able to go, well, this one looks a little bit better than that one, and I can't do that anymore. Those days are gone. The appraiser is not getting your deal done. It's simply not happening because we don't have that kind of leeway anymore. So,
I fully support that. If that is something that could be
yeah.
lied to us
Yeah.
in some fashion, I try, and I know we all do it, but like when you sit down with your sellers and you're trying to give them all this information,
Yep.
that would be so incredibly helpful.
Okay,
So I fully support that if you could help us with that.
I would be happy to create that for you.
And then
It's a great idea.
the other thing is for us and scheduling in our calendars. So I will typically put in for an appraisal on the safe side, half hour. Right?
Oh, God, no.
So in my calendar, is this now an hour and a half situation?
You'll now have time to take a nap. That's my honest opinion. I do think it's gonna take that long.
2 hours?
Maybe more. I've talked, again, I'm not speaking on, but it's gonna take us a long time. We can't really practice on it, you know what I mean? Unless we're using like our own house or whatever. If they're not ordering a 3.6, which is what this version is called, there's a lot of appraisers that just haven't quite gotten into it yet. And I think it's gonna be a lot different in practice, which most of us have been doing, as it is gonna be when we get there. That's gonna be a whole different deal. I honestly, I would start thinking about 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
What?
I don't know it's gonna be that long, this is pure conjecture, but I think understanding from the agent is probably gonna be a real big part of what's gonna get the appraiser through this. Like I said, none of us are spring chickens. You know, and it's not that, you know, we're too old to learn, it's that we've been doing this for a long time. And to have to start all over from a different way, it's gonna be a challenge.
Especially if you have to take pictures of everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
You guys have time for
Oh,
that.
completely agree with you. It's
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
crazy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I have a question. I recently met an appraiser, and the appraiser asked me if I knew that the appraisal rules were changing, and I had heard, but I didn't know too much about it. First of all, I was there 2 hours, just so you know.
Did he have the old form or she, a new old form or new form, or did they
I think she
say?
had the new one, because she had an iPad, was taking pictures of everything.
I have
doing
that.
a lot of the
That-
stuff
yeah.
that you did.
Yeah,
But what she asked me, which shocked me, was she asked me how many offers I had, so
Yes.
I told her.
I always do.
Then she asked me if I would send them to her.
Yeah, I do that too.
All right, well, I'll tell you, I said no.
That's
The
fine.
reason I said no was because I felt I didn't have permission
Yeah, that's
from the
fine.
people involved.
Yeah.
But is that something they're now gonna ask for? Is
They
it?
should have been asking that all along. There are plenty of agents that send us all the offers. I totally understand why you wouldn't want to, and confidentiality and all, I totally get it. But again, that's something hard and concrete I can have in my work file and say, agent said there were 84 offers in 3 minutes. I have that in my work file now. I have something to back up the statement that I made. And while multiple offers does not allow me to appraise higher than the adjusted values, it does allow me to push it toward the higher end of the range. Because now, based on your statement and your data, I can say the house was very much in demand, this is the market, this is, you know, that kind of thing. But that's why the appraiser asked.
So as long as we protect the buyers, the like cross off, like.
Yeah, I
Right,
mean,
okay.
and again, do you have to do that? No, but it's good for the appraiser to have. I mean, I'm always cognizant of building a work file because plenty of agents and everybody else turn us into the state for a million different reasons. We don't come in at the contract price. We don't come, millions of reasons that agents are reporting appraisers to the state. That type of data is in my work file. I go, nope, it's right here. That's exactly what I was told. So that's helpful. Yeah.
Would a multiple offer worksheet suffice for something
Sure.
like that?
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy when the agent actually tells me. So I mean, you know, I don't make more work for yourselves. Just to understand what the appraiser's guidelines are.
What's your expectation on the cost of these appraisals?
That's the problem. It seems to me like most of the lenders don't want to raise the appraised value, the appraisal fee. That's what I'm trying to say. Most of us have been making the same amount of money since 1990, and that is the honest to God truth. So, you know, appraisers are like, I'm not going to do this unless you're going to substantially increase the fee. But there's a lot of lenders that are saying no.
And isn't there a shortage of appraisers right now?
There's a shortage of appraisers willing to put up with the BS of the appraisal management companies. I personally, you couldn't pay me enough to work for those people. Do you guys know what appraisal management companies do? How they hire appraisers? No. So Dodd-Frank, in mid-2000s when the whole SNL collapse and all of that, they made things called appraisal management companies, and those are the people that stand between the lender and the appraiser, because they said that the appraiser was being, browbeaten into raising values that were not substantial. So they created appraisal management companies. Now, what appraisal management companies do is they send a broadcast order to all the appraisers that cover New London County, and they say, what's your fastest turn time? What's your best fee? And those are the ones that get the order. It's not the best way to do things. And on top of it, they're making appraisers basically cannibalize each other, because they're like, no, I can do it for $20 cheaper. It's just, are you getting the value? I'm not saying these appraisers are crappy, but I'm saying that's not the way to do business. And to her point about the fees, I wouldn't do this, for no increase. I only work for direct lenders. I don't do appraisal management companies. And the direct lenders I work with, I have honed them down to like 2 or 3 that are good, care about me as an appraiser, know that I do a good job, and that I go the extra mile. And they pay me what I'm worth. Whereas a lot of the other ones, they're looking at the bottom line. They don't care. Especially with the appraisal management company, because they're saying, okay, we've got quotes for $300, but they charge the buyer $800. Where do you think that extra $5 is going? It's going in the appraisal management company's pocket. Not going to the appraiser. They're not saving the buyer any money. That's where that money is going.
As an appraiser, are you worried about AI?
No, not at all. And AI, I tell you, is what's going to start viewing these photographs too. So understand that it may not even be the lender that's seeing it. AI is immediately kicking it out. No, I think AI is a great tool. I think if used properly and researched the right way, I'm not afraid of it at all.
Sorry.
No.
So turnaround time on appraisal, right? So it's gonna take longer to physically be there for
Yep.
an appraisal.
Yep.
Based on what you're saying, it's gonna be quite a learning curve for everybody.
Yep.
So turnaround time on an appraisal, should we be preparing our contracts, maybe trying to get appraisals done sooner on in the process to give us an extra 2 weeks on the back end?
A lot of lenders don't want to do anything until the home inspection is done. Right. They wait for the home
I mean,
inspection.
like, where are we, like, is there a way to?
I build in another week, maybe 2 weeks. I don't have any, but this is exactly what concerns me, is that your closing dates are going to get all screwed up. It could take me 5 or 6 hours to complete one appraisal, not on 3.6, just on the old form. It could take a good 5 or 6 hours. From what I understand from other appraisers, they're taking 10 and 12 and 14 hours on the new form.
Do you have a copy of an appraisal that was done on the new form to see what it's gonna look like?
No, I've got a blank form I can send you. In fact, I've got business cards here if you want. I know you took a picture, but if you want to contact me, she asked for a copy of the blank form, which I think is a great idea. Then you can get an idea, but you won't see the drop downs. So, I'm not sure, how valuable it would be, but, absolutely.
I would love a card.
You would love a card?
Yes.
All right.